This is Kurtis with a K with 4-H Network News. Today I will be talking about NASA with Pamela Roberts.
I understand you have some opinions about NASA. Tell me what you think.
I think that the NASA project is important, but it's a little too pricey for my tastes. And I think we should put more money into getting people what they need down here instead of paying so much attention to outer space. And since our technology is so limited right now, not to say that it's not advanced, but it's in the way of space travel, it's not adequate enough. And so I think that we should put more money into education, getting people off the streets, cleaning up the cities a little bit so there's not so many murders or drugs.
Well, Kurtis, I happen to know from talking to you previously that you have some pretty strong opinions about the NASA budget. I was born in '55.
This is Kurtis with a K with 4-H Network News. Today I will be talking about NASA with Pamela Roberts.
I understand you have some opinions about NASA. Tell me what you think.
I think that the NASA project is important, but it's a little too pricey for my tastes. And I think we should put more money into getting people what they need down here instead of paying so much attention to outer space. And since our technology is so limited right now, not to say that it's not advanced, but it's in the way of space travel, it's not adequate enough. And so I think that we should put more money into education, getting people off the streets, cleaning up the cities a little bit so there's not so many murders or drugs.
Well, Kurtis, I happen to know from talking to you previously that you have some pretty strong opinions about the NASA budget. I was born in '55, and it was a really big deal for me as a young person when we, for instance, put a man on the moon, and it was during the Sputnik. I think was the year before I was born, but it was still high on people's minds and everybody was talking about it when I was a young kid. So I think that the interest in science, engineering, and technology has been really strongly inspired by the NASA activities.
I think we should cut the budget down a little. Not a whole lot, but just enough to make a difference in other programmings. And especially nowadays with people getting more and more in the way of special needs, I think that a lot of the money should go into that.
I really appreciate what you're saying, and certainly as a teacher, I value a lot of the stuff that you mentioned, because I'm a person who works in a social context, and it certainly affects me and others when there's people living homeless out on the streets. It's very disturbing to me that we would allow our fellow human beings to be living in such abused conditions like that. But would you agree that there is some purpose in the programs in NASA and that they do have some of what they do that is really important? And I'm going to ask you, for instance, to contrast the manned spacecraft with the unmanned ones. I think you've expressed some opinions about that as well.
I think the unmanned ones are slightly better than the unmanned ones because there's no risk in the way to human life, because it's only a machine. It has no or any worries, and so in my opinion there's no harm, no foul there. But the only problem would be is if there is a computer malfunction and it goes off course and hits like a small town or something, and it definitely leaves errors, but no more than if a human was pilot. And then you gotta think of the health of the astronaut that's going up. He's going to need a lot of treatment when he comes back down if he's up there for any length of time. Like for example, muscle rebuilding. There's no gravity there, but even then, that's not the same as Earth gravity, and you're still going to lose muscle mass. And so when you get back down to Earth, you're going to still need physical therapy.
So So the unmanned spacecraft would probably include also like satellite systems, or how about telescopes in space? I mean, there have been some phenomenal discoveries recently, especially with the telescopes in space, where they're able to see galaxies that they've never seen before. Aren't there also some unmanned spacecraft that are going to places like Mars and those kinds of things? What do you think about investing in those?
Well, see, the only problem with sending them to Mars and whatnot is they've done it multiple times already, and they all broke down and weren't able to repair themselves or anything like that. So putting them on planets, I think, should wait until we can find a way to bulk them up, make them more sturdy. But the telescope's looking into further space. That's nice and everything, but what good is it really doing us? It's not making a profit. It's not helping anyone in any way. All it is a pretty picture.
So you have your sights trained on NASA for some reason. I mean, there's many governmentally financed programs, right? What makes you particularly zero in on NASA as, you know what, you think they could do with a little bit of a budget cut in order to help social programs?
They have a lot of going over their budget, first off. But it's not to say they haven't done any good out of all the money that we've put into them. And we have internet, cell phones, and things like that. We have, like you said, we have the telescopes, and we haven't just been using telescopes to look into space. We used it to take pictures of the Earth, and we've made more high-tech maps because of it. And we have GPS tracking or the map like TomTom, and so it definitely has pluses and plus and negatives, but there's a lot of money that could be put to actually helping more people. And it's not to say that we don't put a lot of money into other programs on Earth, but if you look at a lot of states like Washington, they're cutting the budgets back on a lot of schools because they don't have enough money. And so if we found that like states that need money more, and we cut the budget of NASA, we could put that money towards the states. And so I think that although they have done a lot of good, I'm not looking back all the way on their history from like when they started till. I'm looking more towards somewhere around the 2000 up. And in my opinion, they haven't been doing all that great.
So Kurtis, I really appreciate the fact that you have strong feelings about this, and I appreciate you wanting to talk to me about it.
Being with me, Pamela, and I hope to see you soon in the future. This is Kurtis with a K, leaving you all for today.